For sinister true stories of trespassing that revealed haunted secrets and unexplained TRRs in the quiet, picturesque Maplewood Grove, Sarah believed she had found a haven. But beneath the glossy surface of pink-painted fences and fragrant flowerbeds lay a darkness that sent shivers down her spine. Just weeks after moving in, her new life with her 2 children, Bella and Max, took a turn into the realm of nightmares. Whispers echoed through the nights, and shadows slithered across their backyard under a waning moon. One evening, as Sarah tucked her children in, she felt the air grow heavy, almost charged with electric dread. The porch light flickered ominously, projecting eerie shapes against the walls of their cozy home. Each flicker seemed to pulse with something alive, something that watched from just beyond the edge of sanity. Bella and Max sat coloring, yet their innocent drawings revealed dark secrets, crude outlines of a shadowy figure lurking behind them. Panic gripped Sarah's heart. She could barely breathe, but she fought the urge to question them. What could their innocent minds conjure that would chill her to the bone? Then there were the footprints, oversized, deep imprints that scarred her grass. They led to the dense woods bordering the property, a dark thicket that whispered dangers untold. A nightmarish chill clawed its way into her thoughts with the memory of the kind-eyed Mr. Howard next door. He seemed too eager to interact with the kids, too interested in their lives. But no one believed her, and their disquiet grew palpable, a shadow lurking just beyond the edge of light. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Days turned to nights filled with muffled whispers drifting from the Howard residence. Heated exchanges she'd initially brushed off now felt ominous. A strange energy pulsed in the still air as dread mounted. After one desperate encounter with Mr. Howard, during which he leaned in too close and eyed her children as if they were prey, she stumbled upon the local library's dark secrets. An old woman with shaky hands warned her of the price of living in Maplewood Grove, hushed tales of families who vanished without a trace. Families that had come and gone, swallowed by the community's silence. With fear swelling inside her like a tide, Sarah confronted Mr. Howard at the next neighborhood gathering. His expression twisted into something predatory. He spoke of the Watchers, offhandedly, as if sharing a village fable, but the intensity of his gaze burned into her. This wasn't folklore, it felt frighteningly real. As they stood there, the atmosphere crackled with an unspoken menace. Moments later, chaos erupted around them, shadows grew thick, and the lights began to flicker uncontrollably. Her heart raced. Her skin prickled with dread as she recalled the whispers, the towering figures her children had sketched. Were they merely drawings, medical phobias of a twisted mind, or a connection to something truly sinister? In that moment, as darkness swallowed Maplewood Grove and panic surged within her, she realized the stakes were impossibly high. The night would reveal secrets, and she had to protect her children from the terror that lay just beyond their pristine home. But how far would she go to escape this twisted game before the Watchers came for her? Would she become another entry in the whispered tales of Maplewood Grove? The silence was palpable in Maplewood Grove, shattered only by the frantic beating of Sarah's heart. She hurried back inside, slamming the door behind her. She could feel the shadows pressing up against the glass, clawing to get in. The whispers were louder now, an unsettling cacophony that seemed to seep from the very walls of her home. "Mommy?" Bella's voice trembled, drawing her from the brink. The little girl stood at the bottom of the staircase, clutching her stuffed bunny. Max followed closely, his innocent eyes wide with confusion. "Everything's fine, sweetheart." Sarah forced a smile, though her insides twisted with anxiety. She ushered them into the living room, the only room that felt somewhat safe. But tonight, even the cheerful decor seemed tainted by the gathering dark. "Can we draw?" Bella asked, and immediately Sarah's mind flashed back to the ominous sketches etched with dark outlines of lurking figures. The simple request ignited a spark of panic within her. "Let us read a story instead," she suggested, choosing a worn-out book from the nearby shelf. She hoped to distract them, to shield their young minds from the shadow she felt creeping into their lives. As she spoke, a loud knock echoed through the house, reverberating with an unnatural urgency. Sarah's stomach twisted. "Stay here," she breathed, gripping the book tightly as she moved toward the door. The knock came again, this time more insistent, sending a thrill of fear coursing through her veins. Through the peephole, she saw Mr. Howard standing there, a smile stretched too wide across his face as he shifted on his feet. A chill raced down her spine. How was he always there? Always watching? "Sarah." His voice boomed, too cheerful for the moonlit horror that surrounded them. "I brought cookies. Thought the kids might enjoy a treat." He brandished a plate, but all she could think of was the way he stared at her children, as if they were the most delectable snacks. Thanks, but we're busy." Her voice trembled. "Surely, a couple of cookies won't take up too much time." His grin widened, revealing too many teeth. "It's a special recipe. Made just for you and your little ones." All the hairs on her neck stood up. "No, really. We're all right, Mr. Howard," she insisted, praying he would just go away. But as the seconds stretched on, that desperate look in his eyes only deepened. The lights flickered again, and with each flicker, shadows grew bolder. The whispers intensified, curling around her. Bella and Max shuffled closer, clutching one another. "Mommy?" Max asked, his voice barely a whisper. "What's wrong?" "Nothing, sweetie," she said, forcing her voice to remain steady. "Just stay close." The sounds around her changed, morphing into low, guttural growls that curled into sinister laughter. The air felt thick, suffocating, too heavy to breathe. Panic exploded in her chest, and she turned back towards Mr. Howard, who now seemed to loom larger than before, his figure distorting in the dim light. "Let me inside, Sarah," he said softly, but there was a darkness in his tone. "You don't understand what's happening here, but I can show you." He reached for the door. Time slowed as Sarah flung herself between him and her children, every instinct screaming at her to protect what was hers. "Get away from us!" She screamed, the defiance in her own voice shocking her, but as the shadows behind him writhed and crept towards her, she knew this was just the beginning. The watchers were coming, and they were hungry. What would she do when the line between safety and betrayal began to blur? Would she hold fast enough to protect her family, or surrender to the whispers that beckoned? The door rattled violently from Mr. Howard's forceful hands, relentless and insistent. It felt like the very frame of the house was groaning under the pressure, as though it too wished to give in. The whispers crescendoed, intertwining with the sinister dark that now threatened to engulf them whole. "Mommy, I'm scared," Bella whimpered, tears pooling in her wide, innocent eyes. "Stay behind me," Sarah commanded, her heart racing, a wild drum echoing in her ears. The book she clutched had fallen, pages flipping wildly across the floor. A forgotten escaped at Mr. Howard leaned closer, his smile shifting. "You can't keep them safe forever, Sarah. It's only a matter of time." Each word dripped with malice, his eyes glinted with a frenzied hunger that sent chills crawling down her spine. "Help!" she shouted, desperation clawing at her throat. "Help, come," he cooed, a dark mockery of comfort. "No one hears your cries in this town. No one ever has." Max squeezed Bella's hand tighter, and the shadows outside seemed to tighten their grip on the windows, warping into grotesque shapes that danced against the glass. Panic boiled over in Sarah, and she rushed back to the phone. "Call 911. But the line was dead. Silence engulfed her, heavy and suffocating. Mr. Howard pounded on the door again, and the wood trembled. "Let me in, Sarah. Your children need to see. They must understand." Her mind raced. What could he mean? What was there to understand? As if answering her unspoken question, the growling from outside morphed into plaintive cries, distant, yet lingering. Muffled voices echoed, calling her name, pleading. "Mommy! Help!" A child's voice, no, several voices mixed with the whispers around her, filled with longing and despair. They were once alive, she realized, perhaps taken just like the others. "Stop it! Stop it!" Sarah shouted, willing the chilling ache of despair away. She grasped the doorframe, steadying herself as Mr. Howard's laughter echoed through the house. It wasn't the laughter of a man, but something darker, something ancient. "Don't you see, Sarah? I can help you join them. Join us." Suddenly, the lights flickered once more, plunging them into darkness. For a moment, there was only the sound of her own ragged breath and the muffled cries of children lost beyond the walls. The air became electric, a crackling tension that paralyzed her every thought. With a surge of courage, she whispered to her kids, "I need you to be brave. Can you do that for me?" They nodded, their little faces pale but resolute. "Good. We're going out the back. You must trust me." "What about Daddy?" Max's voice trembled. "Shoo," she hushed, heart ripping at the lie. There was no time to explain. Sarah moved quickly. She grabbed the kitchen knife, a futile comfort, and quietly made her way toward the back door. The whispers faded to silence, a quiet anticipation wrapping around her, but then she paused. A figure loomed just outside the window, just where the glass met the wooden frame. It wasn't Mr. Howard. No, it was another, a shape that seemed to seep from the walls themselves, oozing into the room. "Let me in," it whispered, a voice like silk and steel. Time hung suspended, and Sarah could only hear her heart thudding fiercely in protest. The shadows swirled and snaked closer, hungry echoes gnawing at her sanity, and then, a sound she didn't expect. The wind howled outside, rattling everything in its path. A piercing scream cut through the night, raw and haunting. "Mommy!" Bella cried, panic morphing the words into a desperate plead. In that moment, Sarah understood. To escape, she would have to brave the darkness outside. But with each step she prepared for the door, the stillness of the house screamed louder, drowning her in looming dread. What awaited them on the other side? Would the truth about Maplewood Grove plunge them deeper into horror, or were they moments away from salvation? The shadows had secrets to tell, and tonight, they were hungry for more than just her fear. The back door felt icy against Sarah's palm. With every passing second, Mr. Howard's laughter twisted into a grotesque melody that echoed around them, mingling with the cries that clawed at the edges of her resolve. She could feel the weight of the darkness pressing down, a thick blanket of uncertainty and dread. "We have to go, now," she hissed, urging Max and Bella forward. They stumbled silently to the threshold, eyes wide and glistening with unshed tears. The doorknob rattled as she turned it, the old metal creaking in protest. Her heart leapt into her throat as she pushed the door open, revealing the gloomy backyard beyond. Mist slithered across the ground, curling around the gnarled roots of trees that clawed at the night sky. "Stay close," Sarah warned, stepping out into the unknown. The air felt electric, charged with a sense of foreboding. Each step was a prayer, each shadow a potential predator lurking just out of sight. The streetlight flickered, illuminating the path just enough to navigate the chaos. But just as they reached the edge of the yard, the whispers began anew, swirling around them like a dark tempest. It felt like the shadows were tugging at her, urging her to turn back. "Mommy?" Bella clutched her hand tighter, her voice trembling. "What if they find us?" "They won't," Sarah insisted, though her own heart quailed at the uncertainty. The truth hung heavy between them. They were not safe, yet that unspeakable dread took another form. From the nearby woods came a clatter, a rush of leaves, then silence. Sarah's pulse raced as she heard the unmistakable sound of footsteps crunching over dry twigs. "It's not just Mr. Howard," she whispered, fear wrapping around her like a vice. The shadows were shifting, something was moving just beyond their sight. "Mommy!" Max's voice cracked, filled with terror as his eyes darted toward the thicket. Sarah turned, her breath hitching as a figure emerged tall, gaunt, and shrouded in darkness. The faintest glimmer of eyes locked onto hers, a chilling hunger radiating from its presence. "Come play with us," it crooned, the voice a sickly sweet invitation that wrapped around her, threatening to ensnare her mind. "No!" she cried, pulling her children back. She had to protect them, but she felt her own courage fraying at the edges. The air thickened, and it felt as though the shadows themselves were clawing at her resolve. "Run!" Sarah shouted, adrenaline surging in her veins. They darted across the yard, feet pounding against the earth. Every breath was a gasp, every heartbeat a countdown. But Mr. Howard was not done. He burst through the door behind them with a furious scream, his silhouette framed against the dim light of the house. "You can't escape the truth, Sarah. You belong to us." Her stomach twisted. The truth? What truth? As they raced toward the street, the other figure surged forward too, impossibly fast, shadows coiling and uncoiling around it like smoke. The street stretched out before them, a flickering beacon of hope. But as they neared the edge, the ground beneath them trembled. The earth groaned, and an unnatural force pulled at their feet, clamoring for their souls. "Keep going!" Sarah yelled, but her command hung in the air like a lament, caught between the chaos unraveling behind them and the unknowable horror ahead. Then came a sudden, jolting halt. Something hard and unyielding blocked their path, a massive shadow uncoiled, revealing twisted branches and impossibly wide eyes, hungry and expectant. Sarah gasped, despair filling her lungs as she realized they were caught. Ensnared between two forces, she could feel her own sanity teetering. What was waiting for them in the abyss? What truth remained to be unraveled? "Mommy, please." Bella's voice fell to a whisper behind her. In that moment, the echoes of her land whispered back, promising to reveal the horrific secrets long buried beneath Maplewood Grove. And as they stood frozen, the shadows closed in. The shadows wrapped around them like a living blanket, pulsing with a malevolent energy. They were trapped, the air thick with dread and despair. Sarah could feel her heart hammering in her chest, matching the frantic rhythm of her thoughts. The world around them closed in, suffocating and dark, as the grinning figure melded into the gloom. "Mommy!" Bella whimpered again, her tiny voice a fragile thread that threatened to snap under the weight of their terror. Sarah squeezed her daughter's hand tighter, but the chill of the night seeped through her palms. Fear clawed at her throat, and she could see the same panic mirrored in Max's wide eyes. "Back away slowly," Sarah murmured, instinctually trying to keep the calm she didn't feel. They took a tiny step backward, the crunch of dead leaves beneath their feet betraying them to the darkness. In the depths of the woods, the rustles became more frantic, whispers mixing with the raspy breathing of lurking figures hidden among the trees. More of them. Shadows thicker than night. Just as her resolve began to waver, a flash of movement broke the gloom. "Run!" Max shouted, his voice cracking as he darted to the left, dragging Bella with him, breaking their small, desperate triangle. The sudden flurry pushed Sarah into motion. They dashed forward, the distant laughter of Mr. Howard mingling with the whispers, blending into a nightmarish symphony. But the figure was not far behind. It glided rather than ran, twisting through the shadows with an unnatural grace. Its eyes gleamed like the shards of broken glass, watching, waiting. "Faster!" Sarah cried out, more to empower herself than the kids, as she felt the ground shift beneath her once more. They were so close to the street, she could see the dim glow of orange from the lamp above, flickering as if mocking their desperate escape. Suddenly, a figure stepped into the faint light, tall and menacing, a woman draped in shadows but radiant with malice. "You cannot escape," she hissed, the words curling in the air like smoke. Her face twisted into a grin that stretched too wide, revealing teeth that glinted, sharp as knives. "Mommy!" Max screamed as he stumbled, the uneven earth reaching for him, pulling him down. Max! Sarah lunged instinctively, her heart racing as she grabbed her son just before he fell. Relief and fear coursed through her. She pulled him up, locking eyes with Bella, who was frozen, error reflected in her tiny features. Move! Now! Sarah yelled, feeling the darkness claw at her back, urging her to just give in. With a surge of desperation, they surged toward the streetlight, their only fragile hope. Then came a deafening roar from behind, echoing through the fog, as the shadows hitched a frenzied gasp. A deep rift of darkness seemed to yawn open, swallowing Mr. Howard's laughter and softening the cries of the figures, leaving only the frantic pounding of their hearts reverberating in their ears. No! Sarah screamed, the darkness pulling back, giving way to another shadow emerging, more grotesque than the first. We can't stop. Keep moving. As they neared the edge of light, Sarah could see the street stretching outward, a lifeline, but the monstrous reality behind them loomed larger, and she felt time slowing, slipping through her fingers like sand. And just when hope flickered for a moment, an earlobe-length glance at Sanctuary, a piercing shriek shattered the air. Turn back, Sarah. It was Mr. Howard's voice, amplified, echoing through the darkness as the ground began to quake violently. Shadows swarmed their feet, reaching desperately, pulling them back, clawing at their legs. With all the strength she had left, Sarah pleaded, hurry, there's no time. And in that moment, as the shadows threatened to engulf them, something massive crashed down around them. Was it the earth reopening, ready to swallow them whole? With a fierce cry, Sarah grabbed her children and plunged into the luminous circle of light, heart pounding, praying they'd breached the veil of darkness. But the grip of the horror wasn't finished. As the light enveloped them, Sarah felt the chill of the shadows brush past something behind them, slithering through the edge of light, whispering promises of more terrifying truths yet to come. What awaited them in that blinding sanctuary? What darkness lingered just beyond their momentary escape? The bright light surrounded them, a fragile shield amid a world engulfed in darkness. Sarah pulled Bella and Max close, their shoulders bumping together, each of them trembling. The glowing street lamp offered safety, at least for now, but she'd always heard that light only holds out against the dark for so long. Heart racing, she glanced back at the shadows creeping toward the edge of illumination. Whispers slithered through the air, curling around her like smoke. Mommy, what's happening? Bella's voice was barely a whisper, a soft plea in the clamor of their fear. We're safe, for now, Sarah replied, though her own voice felt hollow and strained. Deep down, doubt gnawed at her. The air around them thrummed with something alive, something vile. Max's grip tightened on Bella's hand, his knuckles white. What was that? He whispered, wide-eyed. Just shadow, Sarah said, trying to project calm. A low growl echoed, cutting through the night. It sent chills racing up her spine. They were not alone. The shadows transformed, shifting against the light as if the darkness itself were alive, writhing in frustration. Look! Bella pointed, her little finger trembling as it found a shape emerging, local echoes of their fears disturbing the eerie silence. The figure creeping towards them danced at the boundaries of light, a marionette on tangled strings, twitching and unnatural. Instantly, Sarah felt her breath shortening. Get back! She stepped protectively in front of her children, every instinct screaming at her to protect them at all costs. They huddled close, eyes locked on the apparition that crawled towards them. With every step it took, the shadows warped, summoning Bobby Howard's laughter from deep within the woods. Memories flooded Sarah's mind. The whispering man with the wide smile, the twisted kindness dripping from his words as he taunted unsuspecting kids. You think you escaped, but you'll always be mine. His voice rang through the empty street, taunting and playful, slithering into their minds like poison. No! Sarah cried, feeling the terror mount inside her. She wanted to turn away, to block it all out, but the kids needed her, and there was nowhere else to hide. The figure halted just outside their light. Its features twisted grotesquely, and Sarah realized it wasn't just the darkness. It was a face, leering, mocking, a semblance of a human, yet so far removed from humanity. Its eyes glowed like dying stars, piercing through the fragile barrier she thought would protect them. "Mom!" Max whimpered, his small hand slipping a bit from Bella's firm grip. "Hold on tight," Sarah shouted, each word stinging as urgency flowed through her veins. She could feel that malevolent energy, a pulse vibrating from the depths of the shadows. It called to her children, promising safety in surrender. In a desperate moment, Sarah felt a surge of defiance. "We're not yours." The words echoed, filled with fierce determination as she stepped forward, the harsh chill of the shadows clawing at her ankles. Instantly, the figure recoiled, the glee twisting on its face into something monstrous and furious. The ground beneath her vibrated violently once more, sending a rattle through the silence. She stumbled back, losing her footing as the shockwave surged through the earth. With every fiber of her being, she shouted, "Run! Get to the cars!" As Max and Bella bolted, urgency electrified their movements. The bright light flickered ominously, barely holding off the tide of darkness. Shadows writhed and twisted, reaching out, eager to drag them back. But what lurked just beyond their glow? As they tore across the asphalt toward the parked cars, a piercing cry erupted, a shrill, agonizing wail that echoed through the night. Sarah turned back, the horror reflected in her eyes, understanding too late that the darkness was only waiting for them to falter. "Keep going!" she screamed, desperation rising like bile in her throat. And just before they reached safety, that ominous voice resonated again, "You may run, but can you ever truly escape?" With that question hanging in the air, Sarah realized that the darkness was not just behind them, it had seeped into their very souls. What did that truly mean for their fight against the unimaginable evil stalking them? They reached the cars just as the darkness lunged at their heels. The locked doors stood like fortresses, but the urgency in Sarah's heart screamed louder than her reason. Trembling, she fumbled with the keys, the jangling sound piercing the midnight silence like a gunshot. "Mom! Hurry!" Max's voice was a sharp edge, slicing through the suffocating dread. Bella's eyes were wild, glistening with tears. "I'm trying," Sarah shouted, finally managing to shove the key into the ignition. The engine sputtered weakly, then roared to life, almost as if it, too, felt the weight of the encroaching shadows. They clambered inside, but the moment Sarah slammed the door shut, an unnatural force thudded against the car. The sound was chilling, like the drumming of eager hands on a drum. What had once felt like a shield now felt like a trap. Shadows swirled around the windows, flowing like smoke, their forms flickering and shifting. "Go, Mom! Go!" Max screamed, panicking. She flung the gear shift into drive, but as she pressed the accelerator, the tires screeched against the pavement. The car jolted, but it barely moved an inch. The darkness was holding them captive. "No, no, no!" Sarah cried, wrenching the steering wheel, trying to breach the barrier, but it was as if the shadows conspired against them, festering in the cracks and crevices, pulling them back, wrapping around the tires like living vines. Bella whimpered. "What's happening?" Instantly, Sarah's heart twisted. "We just need to break free. Hold on." She pressed on the pedal harder, desperate energy flowing through her. Just then, the darkness surged, slamming against the side of the car with an otherworldly howl. The windows rattled. The car shook. Bella screamed. Sarah covered her daughter's eyes, wanting to shield her from the darkness creeping close enough to touch. In that moment, Sarah's courage began to fracture. "What do we do?" she shouted to Max, but even he was frozen, mesmerized by the dark spirits clawing at their sanctuary. "Give it more gas. Mom, please," Max urged, his voice trembling. With a guttural scream, Sarah smashed down the accelerator again. The engine roared angrily, and finally, the car lurched forward, bursting from the insidious grip. The tires tore free from the ghastly embrace of shadows. But the relief was fleeting. As the vehicle screeched onto the open road, Sarah could see them, the figures, half-formed against the light of the headlights, swirling and spinning like cursed souls. Bobby Howard's laughter danced through the air, jubilant and mocking, piercing their moment of fleeting safety. "We're not safe," Max shouted, panic edging into his voice again. "Just keep going." Sarah gasped, her hands clammy on the steering wheel. She pushed the car faster, but it felt like the shadows were keeping pace, keeping track. Each mile they drove felt hollow, punctuated by the laughter and the whispers that followed them, refusing to fade completely. "Mom! Look! In the forest!" Bella pointed, and Sarah turned just in time to see figures emerge from between the trees, many more than before. They moved in a way that was altogether wrong, limbs twisting too far, bodies bending in unnatural ways. Her heart raced faster than the car. "What do they want?" Sarah whispered, even as her voice trembled, fear wrapping around her throat like a vice. Then, the chilling realization sank in deeper than any wound. The darkness wasn't just following them. It was studying them, waiting. And then, just ahead, a flicker undulated, lights ahead. A gas station glimmered in the distance, its neon sign flickering unsteadily. "Mom! That's it. We can stop there," Max shouted, hope stitching their fear into a fragile thread. But as they sped toward the beacon of light, Sarah felt an icy grip on her heart. "Can we trust the light?" she whispered under her breath, the memory of the whispers still ringing above the growl of the engine. What awaited them in the glow at the gas station? Safety or something darker yet? As they barreled toward the gas station, the flickering lights hung in the night like a false promise. The shadows behind them loomed larger, swirling and writhing in malicious unity. Each twist and turn of the car felt like a heartbeat against the encroaching darkness, pulsing with fear and desperation. "Faster!" Max pleaded, tears streaking down his cheeks, his voice cracking like glass under pressure. They neared the gas station, the appearance of civilization flickering like a candle in a storm. But in Sarah's heart, a gnawing doubt took root. What if the light was merely an illusion? A trap laid out to ensnare them further? "Please let it be safe," she whispered to herself, tightening her grip on the steering wheel until her knuckles were white. Bella's frightened whimper sliced through the tension. "Mom, what if they're waiting for us?" The words churned in Sarah's mind, her stomach lurching. Her instincts screamed, but time was slipping away. Facing the entities behind them, she had little choice. They were coming. The tires screeched as she swung into the gas station lot, the headlights illuminating the cluttered expanse of the forecourt and casting bizarre shadows that danced and flickered across the cracked pavement. The neon sign buzzed rhythmically, sputtering as if it, too, fought against the oppressive darkness. "Stay close," Sarah barked, glancing nervously at the parking area. Shambling figures loomed at the edges of the light, their distorted shapes mimicking movements of the living, yet their eyes were hollow voids, absorbing rather than reflecting the illumination. "Mom! Look!" Max shouted, pointing to a figure huddled beside the vending machine. It huddled low, its features obscured by a tattered hoodie. As they approached, it looked up, revealing a face marked by shadows. Eyes wide and terrified, it seemed as lost as they were, but somehow more cursed, haunted by a truth deeper than their own. I've been waiting," the figure stammered, voice trembling like dry leaves. "They want to let you leave." "Who?" Sarah asked, fear coiling tighter in her throat. A hollow laugh erupted behind them, resonating with the same twisted glee that had followed them. Turning, Sarah faced the darkness that poured from the tree line like a living nightmare. The forms had multiplied, a spiraling mass of grotesque shapes now crawling from shadow to shadow. "We need to go," Max shrieked, eyes wild with panic. "Get in the car. Now," Sarah ordered, urgency and dread fueling her words. Bella was already moving, scrambling back toward the vehicle, yet Sarah couldn't shake the knowledge that any second could be their last. As they raced back to the car, the gas station's lights flickered again, casting long, trembling shadows on the walls. The whispering intensified, clawing at Sarah's sanity, whispering secrets too grotesque to grasp. "Do you see them? They're coming," the mysterious figure gasped, eyes darting back toward the darkness. "Stop talking," Sarah snapped, sliding into the driver's seat as the oppressive presence loomed ever closer. Frantic, she turned the key in the ignition, heart pounding as the engine sputtered again. The shadows were drawing near, twisting into horrific shapes that beckoned like old friends, and then, as if sensing their fear, a chorus of shrieks erupted from the dark figures. It echoed like death through the air, another barrier between them and escape. She slammed down the accelerator, but the car was hesitant, rattling like an old machine under pressure. Desperation gripped her heart. Why won't it move? She whispered, panic suffocating her resolve. Suddenly, the lights of the gas station flickered once more and went out. Pitch black engulfed them. Dread washed over Sarah like waves crashing on the shore. In the suffocating silence, the weight of unseen eyes bore down on her. Someone was inexplicably drawn to them, urging them toward the depths of the forest that teetered just beyond the edge of the gas station. Shadows crawled closer, a slithering mass that reveled in the fear it created. "Mom!" Bella's voice trembled, breaking through the suffocating void, just as Sarah felt cold breath on the back of her neck, and she knew they weren't just being watched, they were being hunted. Then, a sudden movement caught her eye as a lone figure dashed into the light from the dark forest, and the terror froze her veins solid. Who or what was coming for them now? Would they find safety, or would they run headlong into something far worse? The figure stumbled into the illuminated space, gasping for breath. It was a teenage girl, her face streaked with dirt and terror. "Help me," she cried, her voice raw as if she had been screaming for hours. Sarah's instinct was to get the children back inside the car, but the girl's panicked gaze held her captive for a moment. The darkness behind her pulsed and twisted, creeping toward their edge of safety. "What's happening?" Max shouted, his voice wavering. "They're coming!" The girl screeched, mouth wide as her eyes darted between the gas station and the approaching horror. "You have to listen. They feed on your fear. You have to run." Before Sarah could respond, the shadows erupted into screams, an ear-piercing cacophony that rattled her bones. The dark mass surged forward, grotesque faces emerging from the depths, lips drawn back in a grimace of glee. "Get in!" Sarah screamed to her children, no longer caring about the girl or who or what she was. She launched herself into the driver's seat again, and this time the engine roared to life with a sickening sputter, as if its lurching movement signaled an unwillingness to obey. Just as she threw the car into reverse, the rearview mirror flashed with a haunting light. She turned, heart hammering in her chest. The girl was still there, hands pressed against the glass of the passenger window, eyes wide. But behind her, the shadows seeped closer, twisting to form clawed hands that beckoned. "Drive! Drive!" Max screamed, with a dreaded shudder. Sarah slammed the gearshift into drive and floored it, tires screeching against the pavement, throwing up gravel and dirt. The car lurched forward, escaping the reach of the shadows for now, but as they tore away from the gas station, an unnatural chill enveloped them, lingering in the air like smoke. Bella cried in fear, and Sarah could feel desperation clawing at her throat. "What's happening? What do we do?" "Just keep moving. We need to stay ahead of them." Max's voice was urgent, raw. He glanced back, and the figures from the forest engulfed the gas station, pouring out with terrifying speed, as if they had sucked every drop of light. "Mom, what if we can't keep them away?" Max's voice quivered, revealing the fears she dared not say. "They have to be stopped," Sarah said, determination threading through the fear. "We can't let them catch us. We have to find a safe place." The road stretched ahead, winding into the thick embrace of the woods. Each twist seemed darker than the last, illuminated only by the dying glow of the gas station's neon signs receding into the distance. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed from the back seat. Bella had dropped her backpack, a family memento that had slipped into the shadows of the fear they carried. Sarah's heart stopped as they heard a faint whisper drifting through the air. "Join us!" Panic surged. "Bella!" she shouted, spinning in her seat only to see her daughter's eyes glazed over, fixated on something invisible. The shadows were calling, reaching out. "No!" Sarah screamed, shaking her daughter gently. Bella blinked, and the connection broke. The darkness swirled just outside the car windows, creeping closer, fading in and out like a dying radio signal. Max was staring back, eyes filled with horror. "Mom, what if it finds us?" With urgency, Sarah's fingers tightened on the wheel. "We have to go deeper into the woods. We'll find somewhere to hide." But even as the words left her lips, a horrifying realization gripped her heart. The woods were not an innocent refuge. They were alive, and the darkness thrived within its grasp. "Mom," Bella whispered, "what if it doesn't stop?" As they sped deeper into the night, branches slashed at the windows like skeletal hands, the darkness hungered, rustling, whispering, lurking. But what if escape lay not ahead, but back where they had come from? The chilling thought twisted in Sarah's mind. If the shadows were closing in from behind, what awaited them ahead? Could the truths they had fled from still claw at their heels, waiting for the right moment to strike? And as a shiver raced down Sarah's spine, she could almost hear a voice, deep and hollow: "You cannot run from what you truly fear." What if venturing deeper was the only way to confront the terror they tried to escape? With each pulse of the engine, the car plunged deeper into the heart of Maplewood Grove's haunted woods. Sarah could feel the oppressive weight of the darkness clawing at them, each rustle in the bushes making her skin crawl and her heart stutter. The headlights barely pierced the consuming black, shadows flickering in strange ways that danced at the corners of her vision. The woods felt alive, watching with predatory eyes. As they sped ahead, Bella's voice, so delicate yet filled with worry, broke through the suffocating gloom. "Mom, do you think we can lose them?" I don't know, sweetheart," Sarah whispered, forcing her own fears down as she clung to the steering wheel. The path twisted sharply, and the car skidded, the tires screaming against the gravel. "We have to believe we can." Max, still looking back, cried out, "They're right behind us." His voice shook, full of panic. Panic snaked its way through Sarah too, but she would not let it grip her. "We need to find somewhere safe," she urged, glancing towards the approaching darkness. "Anything can be a refuge if we believe it can hold. Trust me." Her conviction was as fragile as glass, and as much for her children as it was for herself. Suddenly, a clearing opened up before them, a small cabin crouching in the shadows, old and weathered but standing defiantly against the night. An eerie flicker of light glimmered through the windows, warm and inviting amid the cold terror surrounding them. "There!" Max shouted, pointing. "We should go there." "We don't know if it's safe," Sarah argued, her heart racing. But as if on cue, a deep rumbling laughter echoed from the woods behind them. The shadows surged forward, coiling and twisting, pushing them toward the cabin. "Mom, please," Bella pleaded, tears streaming down her face. The pitiful sound of her voice shattered any hesitation. Okay," Sarah yelled, spinning the wheel as she guided the car into the cabin's narrow driveway. The tires screamed in protest as they screeched to a halt, wheels scrambling for grip on the gravel. "Get inside now." They bounded out of the car and raced toward the door, hearts pounding like war drums. Sarah took a moment to scan the surroundings, her breath hitching as they crossed the threshold. The air inside the cabin was stale, tinged with an unsettling familiarity. "Stay close," she commanded, leading her children into the dimly lit room. A single lamp flickered to life, illuminating dusty furniture and walls lined with photographs that seemed to follow them with unseen eyes. "Who lived here?" Max asked, clutching Bella's hand so tight his knuckles turned white. "I don't know, but it feels weird," she replied, her unease settling deeper. Shadows danced and flicked against the walls, their shapes sharpening in the dim light. She locked the door behind them, taking a breath as she leaned against it, wishing for a moment of peace. Just when they thought they might catch their breath, chilling laughter erupted from outside, filling the cabin with dread. Panic bubbled back up. "Mom! They're here!" Max gasped, running to the window. Sarah joined him, her heart sinking as she peered outside. The forest pulsed with shadows, writhing and twisting, their voices a dissonant choir. "What do we do?" Bella cried, yet before Sarah could answer, the whispers morphed into a cacophony, clawing into her mind. Join us, it's time to play," chanted the shadows, a grotesque invitation that sent shivers down her spine. "They're trying to trick us," Sarah breathed, though her own fear threatened to cave her voice. "We have to find something to defend ourselves." She began tossing furniture aside, longing for something tangible that could help fight against such unfathomable terror. Mom Max tugged her sleeve, and she looked down to see the shining light of a small kitchen knife resting among the wreckage. "Maybe this can help," she said, gripping it tightly, its cold metal reassuring even amidst the growing dread. Suddenly, a loud banging shook the cabin door, reverberating through her bones. The world outside felt alive, eager to claim what stood inside. "We won to let them in," she shouted, brandishing the knife fiercely as if it could ward off the nightmares encroaching. "Stay behind me." "Mom, I'm scared." Bella whimpered, retreating behind her, her small frame shaking. A voice suddenly cut through the chaos, clear and haunting. "Let me in, Sarah. You don't know what you're missing." It was Mr. Howard, his face pressed against the window, grinning that unnaturally wide grin that tore at her sanity. "Stay away from my children," she screamed, her heart pounding. "It's too late for fears, they are nothing but shadows of the past," he crooned, his whispers mingling with the whispers from the trees. "You're one of us now then," as if sensing their desperation, the cabin's lights flickered violently. The shadows outside surged forward, clawing at the walls and windows, their laughter rising in a frightening crescendo. Desperate, Sarah turned to Bella and Max. "We have to do this together," she said, willing courage into her voice. "We must face them." With that, she thrust the knife toward the center of the room, feeling the hot pulse of determination surge within. "We're not afraid of you." But at that moment, the shadows converged, spiraling into a heart-wrenching wail. In a wave of terror and fury, they crashed against the door, the force enough to splinter the wood. "Hold on!" Sarah shouted, pushing her children back against the far wall. "Don't let go of each other." As darkness slammed into the cabin like thunder, the knife glowed with an inexplicable energy, casting a brilliant light that cut through the clamoring whispers. It ignited a spark in Sarah's heart, enabling her to embrace the fear, momentarily freezing time itself. With one final push, she surged forward, the knife held high, piercing the shadows that loomed ever closer, turning her fear into blazing defiance. "You do not control us. We are more powerful than you can imagine." A blinding flash erupted as the knife met the darkness, the room exploded into light. The shadows recoiled, forming angry shapes that crumbled and disappeared, leaving only silence echoing through the creaking walls. For a vivid moment, Sarah stood stunned, breathless, as the light intensified. She gripped the knife tight, heart racing, uncertain of what her actions might mean. But then, as the light dimmed, the cabin felt different, the oppressive darkness had lifted. As she turned back to Max and Bella, their faces lit up with a glow of warmth and love, the fears that had coiled tightly in their chests dissipated, replaced by a tentative hope. They were still together, they were still alive. "Mom?" Max whispered, catching his breath. "Was it real?" "I think we made it through for now." She knelt before them, holding their faces in her hands. "We're safe." But as they stood there, basking in their fragile victory, a lingering whisper drifted through the air, soft yet undeniably ominous, a promise that the darkness would return. "Mom, what does that mean?" Bella's little voice quavered, and Sarah swallowed hard, knowing that while they had survived this night, the shadows of Maplewood Grove would always be near, watching, waiting for the moment they might falter again. "Whatever it means, we'll face it together." Because after battling the abyss, she now understood that even in the deepest darkness, love was the brightest light. As dawn broke in hues of gold and pink, illuminating their fragile new resolve, they could finally breathe easy, at least for today. But tomorrow? Tomorrow would bring new challenges. She gathered her children, their hands clasped tightly in hers, and stepped out into the light, ready to face whatever came next, fortified by the knowledge of who they were as a family. Maplewood Grove had more stories to unveil, but they would be ready. The shadows might be lingering close, but now they were not exposed, not alone. Sarah held her children tighter, taking that first step forward with fierce determination, ready to uncover whatever mysteries awaited them in this haunted place. The road ahead remained uncertain, but Sarah's heart surged with the fierce belief that they were stronger than the darkness. Now and forever. You need to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash the like button now to feed the algorithm. It's crucial. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about the ending. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. This is the moment to show your support.